with my very lovely mother.
Hi, I'm Jeanette.
And today we're going to be talking about some things that we don't like about Disney World. I feel like almost every episode we always talk about the things that we love, things that we would recommend, our suggestions. Sometimes in an episode we'll go into things that maybe we don't love as much. Today we're focusing on the top 5 things that we don't like about Disney World. And so we wanted to avoid the obvious, so like the prices, the crowds, the weather. So some of mine are related to some of those things. But yeah, so I wanted to avoid the top 3 obvious ones, which, you know, things that we don't like.
Can't fix that.
Yeah, no, for sure. But so I try to think of other unique things that I was just like, I don't like about Disney World. Some of mine are very specific and very small. But even then, though, there's still things I don't like. So yeah, all right,
well,
what's your...
I had a hard time with getting 5.
Yeah, I came up with mine almost instantly.
Yeah, I was like, I have to think about this, you know. 1 or 2, the first 2 were like really a big thing for me to be complaining about all the time. But the other ones are like just a minor complaint.
Well, what's in your number 5?
My number 5 was discounts on merchandise and stuff like that. They do change here and there. And like you said, like I know in the last podcast we mentioned how when you're a DVC member, you have certain discounts. And when you're an annual pass member, you have certain discounts. And what they do is every once in a while, they run some promotion where they have a different... It's just annoying because if they are going to give a discount, I would hope that it would be automatic. Like when I go to eat and I tell them, DVC, or they should be asking, are you a DVC? They don't always do that. It's like when you have to go everywhere, like my husband's a veteran, you have to do the same thing. Every place you go, you have to say to them, what's the discount? And they have to tell you what the discount is. So I wish they were less transparent about some of their merchandise discounts. Like in some places you get discounts, some places you don't get discounts. Some of the pavilions, sometimes you go in and you don't get discounts, and then some of the pavilions do give you discounts. So my thing is I wish they were more uniform.
Yeah, I guess so. Because again, there are lists where that have where the discounts are.
Yeah, but you have to constantly...
But we always just say you should always just ask.
You have to ask.
Never know who does discounts or who does not do
But
discounts.
what I'm saying is also it's not consistent. Like some of the pavilions will give you a discount, but then some of the pavilions you go into don't.
It depends who owns the pavilion. Yes. And so as a everyday guest goer, you don't always know who owns the pavilion.
You don't know who it is. So that's the first question I ask every time. Sometimes you forget. Yeah. And then you'll walk away and say, I forgot to tell them I was like, annual pass holder or a DVC pass holder. So I wish it was a little bit more consistent. That's it.
No, I feel that. No, it is hard because then if you do forget, you did spend a lot of money. You're like, I forgot. I could have saved
this
$5.
And it all adds up in the end.
No, it definitely does. All right, in my number 5, I don't have anything about discounts. That is true about discounts. In my number 5, this is related to just the idea about, so I think there's a lot of pros and cons to having a vacation that's very planned, right? If you're a big planner, then you have everything planned, you know where you're going, you know you're going to do all the things that you want to get done, which is really fun. But then also if you're not a planner, you want to be more spontaneous, then it's more difficult to have a Disney vacation that is a bit more spontaneous. And specifically related to planning, I don't love that there is really no walk-in table service for restaurants. So for instance, they have started doing the, like for instance, if you want to go to Ohana, you can do the wait up line. So like you walk the walk up line.
Okay, yeah.
So you can walk up, you can go on the My Disney Experience app, you put in that you've walked up to Ohana and you're on the line now, basically the queue without a reservation to try to see if you can get a table. So some restaurants are starting to do that, but the vast majority of them don't have that.
I didn't even think about that.
And for almost every table service restaurant, you're basically not going to sit down. So I would say this is especially in Epcot, for instance, like if you want to go to Via Napoli, which is a very popular restaurant there for pizza, if you don't get a restaurant 6 days in advance, there is no way you're sitting at Via Napoli. And I just think that just is a bummer. I just think that's a bummer is all. Especially if you are an everyday park goer. So if you're a local Disney person, it's like some of these bigger restaurants, you have to make sure you plan ahead.
That's actually lumped into my number 1. So when we get to my number 1.
That's okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying though, that it's like, I think it's harder if you just want to, if you live down there, if you're last minute, if you plan a last minute trip and now you can't eat at your favorite place. Can't even sit down. Yeah. It's like some people just plan their vacations maybe a week or 2 weeks in advance. They suddenly have a day off from work or they got a bonus or something like that. They're going to go down to Disney. And so, yes, I just don't love specifically for the table service restaurants. I wish at least almost every restaurant I think should offer like the walk up standby line.
Yes, they should have at least some tables that they have for walk up. Yeah, there should be something that
like if you did not know you had to plan all your table service restaurants, given Disney does have a lot of options for quick service restaurants that are very tasty. So
yeah, but still it's not the same thing.
Yeah, but it's like sometimes you do just want to sit down at a table service restaurant and just like sit down for an hour and have someone serve you, and it is a nice experience. So, so that's
I agree.
That's one of the things I just don't love. So, all right, what's in your number 4?
I wish they would bring back Tables in Wonderland. Oh, yeah. I know that they have the dining plan,
so
which doesn't work for us.
What is Tables in Wonderland?
Okay, Tables in Wonderland was a system where you paid up front. We had to pay a fee. I forget what the fee was or whatever.
It was like a few $100s.
Yeah, it was not that expensive to begin with. And because we were going to Disney on like sometimes 2, maybe even 3 times a year if we went on a fast weekend, and because we were adults who were eating and drinking, Tables in Wonderland not only took the discount discount off your meal. It took the discount off your whole bill.
Yeah, including alcohol.
Including
Yes.
your alcohol and your drinks. So what happened is that when you went to a restaurant, it was the same in every restaurant, like whatever restaurant was on that Tables in Wonderland list. It wasn't like, oh, this person gives you 10% at lunch, but not at dinner. You know, that's another thing, like I said, about the discounts. It's like you get 10% at lunch, but not at dinner, or you get 20% in this restaurant, 10% in the other restaurant. Tables in Wonderland was 20%, if I'm not mistaken, it was 20% off your meal everywhere, including your alcohol. So for us, it was worth it to do that because that's a lot of money, food and drinks, especially the alcoholic drinks. And not that we drink that much when we're in Disney, but just 1 or 2 drinks adds up. And as you got older and we were going and you're eating more food and not the children's menus, that was a great, for people who wanted to sit down at restaurants and eat, it was a great alternative to getting the meal plan. Because the meal plan, you have certain snacks, you have certain this, you have certain
You're
that.
very regulated with the meal
Yes, and
plan.
then at the end, you're trying to use up your snack things on stuff like that at the end because you don't use them. So I love Tables in Wonderland.
Yeah.
And then they took
I
it away.
imagine they took it away because they probably were starting to lose money on Tables in
I think
Wonderland.
it purposely went away right before COVID or
Yeah.
right during the beginning of COVID. They really did just get rid of it because
Mm-hmm.
they had upped the price at one point, and that changed a lot of it because, like I said, if you weren't going 2 times a year, it wasn't worth it for 1 week's vacation.
Yeah, I feel like that was really worth it for locals who were
Yes,
going
our
frequently to
friends
the
who lived in
parks.
Florida
Yeah.
had it because it was definitely worth for going in there just to go have dinner or do whatever. So I miss that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Again, I assume they took it away because they were losing the money on it.
I would
so
assume
it wasn't
so.
worth it for them to do it anymore.
Of course, yeah.
But it was definitely worth it those first few years when I remember when you bought it and you were adding up to see how much you saved. You did end up saving
We did.
a lot.
We
so-
saved, and it was worth it because even with we also had DVC or annual pass, and we had to make sure that if you're paying for Tables in Wonderland, that you couldn't just use your annual pass and get the same thing.
Sure.
And
Well, that's
it
the thing
wasn't.
too. A lot of places that didn't accept the annual pass or DVC did take Tables,
Tables in Wonderland.
and vice versa. So then, you had more options for discounts.
Right, and
wherever
I
you
think it
went.
was a meal plan option for people who wanted to eat at the sit-down restaurants.
Yeah.
Not that they wanted to graze all day and use like 2 coupons if you wanted to sit in a restaurant. And one, it was not that type of thing. It was just you go to your restaurants that you like and you got a discount.
Yeah,
So I
for
miss
sure.
that.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. It was a good program.
Especially
so-
now that there's so many much nicer restaurants in Disney Springs.
Yeah.
Now there's much more restaurants that they could have put on there that would have made,
Yeah, but again,
definitely.
they probably were like, we don't want to lose the money.
No,
So-
no, pay full price.
All right, and my number 4, this is very specific, but when you go to Disney World and you get popcorn, you have 2 options for popcorn. You have the small popcorn, which is in a little cardboard box, and then you have the large popcorn that always comes in a souvenir bucket. And I do not like that there is not a large popcorn bucket that is not a souvenir bucket, basically. So, for instance, when you go to Disneyland Paris, they have they have a popcorn bucket, the small popcorn. Their popcorn, cardboard, is bigger than the one in Walt Disney World. I would just say it is larger, you get more popcorn.
Nana loves her popcorn.
But the thing is, though, sometimes I do want a large popcorn, but I don't want a souvenir bucket because I'm not really a popcorn bucket person. I don't want
you
the
don't
big
want to carry it
souvenir
around
bucket.
all day.
Even like the basic souvenir buckets that they have, I just don't want to carry that around. And then if you buy it, then it's like, well, I feel bad just throwing this
it away.
out because it's like I just paid for this little plastic bin, obviously. At the same time, though, it's like, well, maybe it doesn't fit my suitcase to go home, so I don't want this. I want a recyclable large popcorn.
Larger
bucket.
popcorn.
So I don't know why they don't have a
Yeah, I'm
recyclable large
surprised, yes.
popcorn bucket. So I feel like it can't be that expensive to buy, to buy the cardboard.
No,
for
because
it.
they're going to be charging you for it. So
That's what I'm saying. If
yeah.
anything, they could save money because then I'm not buying the souvenir bucket unless
Bucket.
they think you buy the souvenir bucket, so you buy more popcorn to keep refilling it to try to
Refilling
get
it,
your
I
money's
guess
worth
so.
of souvenir
There's
bucket.
got to be a rhyme to their
So
reason.
that's what I'm assuming. But the
Right.
thing is, though, I usually only have popcorn once or twice. I'm a single person who eats it, so I'm not really sharing it with like a big family or
No.
anything like that. So it's like in the future, maybe the souvenir buckets will be useful if I have kids and everything, that we're all eating the popcorn out of the bucket and everything. But for right now, sometimes I just want a large popcorn just for myself.
Right,
And
'cause
you
especially when
can't
you
get
stay,
that.
she buys it and stands online and eats it while we're standing
Yeah,
on
so
our
and it's
line.
like sometimes the small popcorn just isn't enough popcorn because then
enough. Mm-hmm.
you eat it and it's not really that big of a snack if you think about it. It's like you get more volume with
Well,
the
it just
pretzel.
means you have to
than with
buy
the
2
popcorn.
popcorns.
But then you look ridiculous buying 2 small popcorns because at that point, the price point, you should just buy the souvenir
Buy the
bucket. So I don't know. You go back and forth a lot. 'Cause it's like,
Okay.
what's really
I can
worth
see
it?
that being a pet peeve. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like something. It's just a very little thing that I don't like, and I've thought about this for years. Honestly,
Okay.
that I don't like the fact that there's
I
no
don't eat the
large
popcorn, so it
cardboard
never
bucket.
dawned on me. Okay.
Yeah, when I say for years, I mean like since I was a child, I realized
Okay,
that, and I
I
was like,
want
this
more
is silly.
popcorn.
Yeah, so silly, but
Yeah.
So that's something that I wish that they would change. That they would add a larger, either make the small popcorn cardboard bucket bigger, or add a secondary large cardboard that's
bucket.
recyclable that you don't have to buy a souvenir bucket.
Okay.
Just my personal opinion.
Okay, I could see that. Okay.
Okay, what is in your number 3?
My number 3 is they need more shade. As I'm getting older, I have to sit more and take a rest, especially when we were there the last time.
Well, I
with
feel
the
like they
100
need more
and-
benches.
Right, the
too.
105-degree weather. I have to admit that Disney has very few places to sit down. Okay. Maybe it's because I'm getting older, but even when I was younger, it was a pain in the butt not to be able to sit down. I find that they have very few benches to begin with in most of the park. And where they do have the benches, there are no trees, no shade, no nothing.
Yeah, some of these benches are just in the wide open.
They're just in the
And I'm
middle
like,
of the
who
sun,
is eating?
middle of the
Or
heat.
who
So
is sitting
nobody
at this
wants to
bench?
sit in them. So everybody's vying for a spot on the one bench that maybe has some shade on it. There's really no place to sit around even when you come out of the rides. Like when you go to the land, there's that hill that everybody sits on, the
Yes.
little like ledges there. But I find that now as I'm getting older and I do want to take a rest, it's hard no matter where you go. I mean, they even built that whole new plaza in Epcot now where, you know, they have all those tables and chairs and it's a very nice space. They have the music playing, very nice, very relaxing space. There's still no shade.
Well, there's some shade in the treed area, but not in the very
Not in the
centered
big
area.
one. They have a little space that has a little bit more shade. But I find that as we walk around the parks, like a lot of times, especially when I say, well, Amanda's going to go on one of the rides that I can't go on. Well, I don't want to stand there for an hour or an hour and a half while she's going through her queue and going on the ride
We
or
gotta
whatever.
get you one of those UV umbrellas so you can just sit wherever under your little UV
Oh God,
umbrella.
yes, no, don't want to be carrying that around either.
Yeah.
But I think that they should invest in a little bit more trees or a little bit more where they have some kind of shade, not only on the benches. This also goes to the rides and the queues. I think that a lot of the queues, as we talked about in some of when we were talking about our favorite rides or not favorite rides or things, pros and cons, some of those rides don't have the shade that they need. They need to cover people when they're standing for 2 hours going in and out of, you know, a queue that goes snakes through all these things. So that's my pet peeve. I wish Disney would give me more shade.
Yeah, overall, more shade is always a good thing, or more covering, because it rains a lot too in Florida.
Yes.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes it's always good just to have some more covering if you're just trying to get out of the rain for a second.
Right.
And most of the year, Florida and California are warmer states.
Yes.
So it's like.
Yeah, it's not like they only need the shade like two months
Yes,
a
like
year.
there are times when it can be very cold in Florida too, and
Yes.
even in California it can be quite chilly. But more often than not, you're going to be hot in
Yes.
Florida. You know, so
Yes,
I
more
do
often
agree.
than not, you need some shade.
Shade is good. So, all right, in my number 3, I have another very specific one. So, in the Lotus Cafe, they do not serve veggie dumplings or spring rolls. So, this is the quick service in the China Pavilion in Epcot. And so, in the festival booths, they will have veggie dumplings or veggie spring rolls. And in Nine Dragons, the table service restaurant, they do have veggie spring rolls, but they do not have it in the quick service restaurant. And I just think that is so silly. Like, why do they not have it? They only have pork dumplings and pork spring rolls. And it's like,
know.
okay. But when you go online at the festival booths, everyone is getting the veggie dumplings and the veggie
dumplings.
spring rolls. Like, everyone is getting it. So it's like, clearly there's a huge audience who wants to buy these items. And so why are they
Have
just
you ridden
not
to Disney
included?
yet to tell them that they need to put it
Yeah,
there?
why are they just not at the Lotus Blossom
know.
Cafe? I don't get
I
it.
know.
Especially that they have Lotus Blossom Cafe and Nine Dragons have to share some kind of
They have to share
kitchen.
some kind.
They're
I
in
know
the
you can
same
see them
building.
cooking some of the stuff in the background, but they have to share the
Yeah,
same.
they're in the
same
building.
supplies. Let's
Yeah,
put it
that's what I'm
that way.
saying.
Yes.
So the fact that Nine Dragons has it, but the Lotus Blossom
don't have
Cafe
it.
doesn't, I just think is so ridiculous and so annoying. Like another thing that I thought about for years, and I'm like, why don't they just have a veggie option? And they don't have any veggie options really. Like the Lotus Blossom Cafe, almost everything has pork or chicken
yes,
in it.
pork or chicken in it.
And I don't, unless you just get plain rice. So I just don't understand why they don't have it, since they have it in the festival booths. And I will say, most of the year, Epcot does have a festival going on, so usually
Right,
you
so
can
most
get
of the
something at the
time.
festival
Well, you
booths.
know, we have-
But either way, though, there are times when you do go to Epcot and the booths are not open yet. Like if it's like the week before the next festival starts, the booths won't be open. So then you
Right.
just don't have that option, which
Right.
is just annoying.
And we like to stop at that cafe because I like the dumplings and the things, and we just happen to usually around our time of day, we're usually over there to stop and have something to drink.
Yeah, so I just think it's very strange that they don't have those options. Again,
Yes.
they're just forcing you to the festival booths, which
Yes.
is fine.
This is not the first time she's done
But-
this. Every time we go there, I do hear this. You know.
Yeah, because I just
Yes.
think it's like something I don't like.
could
I
see
haven't
that
liked
being
about
one
for
of the
years. It's
things.
very specific, but it is very inconvenient. So,
Yes.
all right, what's in your number 2?
My number 2 is get rid of Lightning Lane and special lanes. My attitude is that coming from when we used to go way back, before there was Fast Pass, before there was anything, there was just a line. You got online. And if the line is just one line and it's constantly being fed into the ride, I don't care what you say, it's going to go faster for everybody. Where now you have the lightning lanes and the queues and everything else, and then The people who are standing on the regular lines who don't want to pay the extra money, okay, this is all a money thing, who don't want to pay the extra money, when you stand on those lines, you can actually get really, really aggravated because they are letting in 50, 60 people from the lightning lanes, from whoever shows up for all those queues, and you're standing there. They do not offset it evenly like they used to when they had fast passes. It was more evenly offset. It becomes very, very annoying. So people like me who said, I don't need a lightning lane or a fast pass or whatever, I can just stand on a regular line, will not do it anymore. So exponentially, the price of the vacation goes up because I refuse to stand on that line because I'm going to be standing for 3 hours when everybody else is going through on a regular basis. So I think they should go back to just one line.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of psychology behind lightning lane lines and fast pass type lines because obviously Universal and other parks have this as well. Right. I think one, it is partially crowd control because let's say the same amount of people who are going to go in an hour through lightning lane and the standby line are waiting on a regular queue line. That queue line could end up being much longer, and sometimes you don't always have the real estate.
But not
in
if it's
park.
moving that fast.
I don't think not necessarily. Think about Rise of the Resistance. That line used to be all the way out into
that
Green
one
Avenue.
Breaks down every 5
But I'm
minutes.
saying, for example, though, if every line was like that and the park was overcrowded in that sense where everyone was just in line like that, I think they could potentially run into crowd problems. I think partially it's crowd control. I also think too that in addition to just lightning lane, I think they need to always ensure that the standby line estimated time is accurate to who is going in lightning lane. Because I think that is really the problem if you think about it. The problem is not that you're just
sometimes a lot of people show up at the same time.
Yeah, because that's the thing though. Because the problem isn't always that you're just standing on the standby line. Because the standby line, like the idea of lightning lane and fast pass, is that fast pass is, I say in quotes, holding your spot in line. So then that way, then you don't have to stand on the line. So it's holding your spot in line, and then you just come in, as like your spot is being held. So potentially that standby line should be accommodating for all the lightning lane, but sometimes it's not, and that's where it gets really tricky. Whereas if it's telling you it's going to be 60 minutes, and then suddenly you've waited 2 hours because you didn't know how many lightning lane was going to be, I feel like that's when it feels more miserable. Whereas if you just know what you're signing up for when you get into standby line, it's not as bad.
I mean, if the line is 3 hours long, it's 3 hours long, and you can make your decision to stay or go. Where we've been on lines where you stand there and you watch all these lightning lane people being put in. You could stand there for 25 minutes and you don't move. And that's what's backing everybody behind you up too. So when you're standing in the back, you're saying to yourself, why aren't we moving? We haven't moved in 25 minutes. I mean, you should at least be moving. And that's my biggest complaint is, and I know it's crowd control. I know it's crowds. I know it's, trying to make sure that everything runs and everything goes through and you don't have lines snaking through the parks. But because of the crowds and because of the amount of people now, it, like you said, if somebody told me you're going to be on the regular line for 2 hours, then I can make a decision, well, this is what I want to do or not do.
And I would also note too, I've been to Six Flags a handful of times as well, and Six Flags they used to not have the, like any fast pass or things like that. And for the most part, a lot of Six Flags parks don't do that. And you still wait a long time just standing in line and not moving. So it's like, even without fast pass, you still just end up standing on line wondering why the line isn't
one of my
moving.
little things.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't necessarily know if taking away lightning lane would fix all the problems. I think it would just create different problems. Honestly. So I don't know. So I think that's one of the things.
It's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, because let me tell you, Six Flags has some of the worst lines in your life that you'll stand on, and you truly do just stand there doing nothing, sneaking in and out of little lines, and there's no fast pass. So you're like, what am I standing here for? What is going on? So, and you never find out because then when you get to the front, you're like, what was I waiting for? for standing in a spot for 10 minutes and we didn't move, and I'm like, what was that for? You never find out. I don't know. So I don't know. So I think there's a lot of pros and cons of lightning lane, but it is tough though, especially when you do feel sad watching all the lightning lane go through.
I know. I think that's what bothers me the most when you get up close enough to see that those people are just going in and you're just standing there, and they don't say, okay, wait, and we'll send some of these people in. They just let them go in because now they're charging these people so much money that people are going to get pissy if they have to stand in line in lightning lane after they've paid extra to do it, which I understand now.
Well, even when you pay for lightning lane and then there's a long
sometimes
lightning
you still
lane
have to
line,
wait.
And then that's annoying too because you're like, I paid all this money and I'm
well,
not even getting
now
it
I'm on the
quickly.
other side. Now that we've been paying for it,
So
I'm like,
saying,
okay.
it's like there's pros and cons to both sides to a certain extent. So
it's kind of a system that you really can't make everybody happy.
Yeah.
But I've been on both sides and I get annoyed on both sides, and that's why I said in my mind, I say to myself, in a perfect world, you would just feed these people into the ride and it would just keep on moving.
Again, you would think that, but it doesn't always happen. Just saying, just from knowing from going to Six Flags, it just doesn't always happen. I don't really know why. So, all right, in my number 2, I have that so right now when you buy a ticket to the parks, so for instance, if I buy a 2-day ticket to the park, parks in the time frame, like the week that you're going to buy, basically, because you have to buy it by week. I can just activate my ticket the day I go into the park and just walk into the park. If you buy an annual pass for the first time, you have to activate the annual pass. And I think that is the most annoying thing in the world, that you need to activate your annual pass. This means you have to go to guest relations. So guest relations is only in Disney Springs or in the front of one of the parks.
Right.
So either you go to Disney Springs, you put your name in with the person at the iPad, then you wait maybe 1 to 3 hours to see
Till they
what
call
find
you and
out.
tell you it's your turn.
Then you get there. Then it doesn't, sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it only takes like maybe 10, 15 minutes for them to activate the passes. And then you get your pass and now your pass is activated. Or again, in guest relations, sometimes you get to guest relations in front of a park and you're waiting a long time, to try to get into the park when you don't know how long you're going to be waiting. And I
last time.
just don't understand why you need to activate an annual pass. Like, what are they activating? Why can't you just buy your annual pass and then the first day you want to use it? And I guess if you have multiple annual passes on your account, I guess is the only thing.
But even if you use
But
your
most
annual
people
pass, you
don't.
should be able to just go and put your band on, because your reservations for your rides and stuff
True,
also,
are attached to that
everything's
annual
attached
pass.
to that annual pass. So they know
Yeah.
that's the annual pass you're using. Because what happened last time was I got stuck at the window because the annual pass they wanted to activate was different than the annual pass that my reservations were on. And I had to
Yes.
explain to them, no, I don't want to use that annual
Yeah.
pass. I want to use
because
this
your
one.
reservation was on that. That's what I'm saying. That it's like I feel like I don't know why they make you do that to like
You
wait.
think in this age of technology,
Yeah, to
they
wait
would
in
be able to
another
tell.
line, another physical line to do something that I feel like you should just be able to just go into the park with your annual pass. And because even when you renew your annual pass, don't you still have to activate the renewal annual
Yes,
pass?
I still have to
That's what I'm
activate it.
saying. So once a year, annual pass
know,
members
once a
still
year I
have
have
to
to go
go
stand
activate
online.
their passes, which I just think is really silly and I think really inconvenient, honestly. And so I don't know why they have that, why they haven't figured out a way
you would
that,
think in technology
especially
they
if
would
you're
figure out.
renewing your pass, there is no reason for you to go activate your renewal pass. Your pass should just continue.
Right, and I can
you know?
understand, like you said, if people have, I do have 2 multiple passes on my account. One because we had bought a platinum pass that we didn't use, and
like years
you don't
ago.
want to use it,
Yeah.
and it's good for like 10 years. So you don't want to use it when you don't really have to, unless it's going to be worth it. So I bought another annual pass that was just for the time we were going, and I kept that platinum. Now I happen to have 2 passes, so it could be that they should be. If you have multiple passes, you have to go to the
Yeah.
window. If you don't have a multiple pass and you just have one annual pass, I agree. Why doesn't the system just know that when you walk up to that thing and put your band up, you only
Yeah,
have
then
one
you should
annual
know, so
pass?
then you can just
It's
go
going to
in.
use your annual pass. So yes,
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know. I don't get it. I've always thought
Okay.
it was annoying. Even when I was a kid, I thought it was annoying too. But even now, as an adult, I'm like, that is so silly.
I know, because we got stuck outside Magic Kingdom last time for like,
Yeah,
I
but
don't know
even
how
sometimes
long.
in Disney Springs, like you get stuck at Disney
Oh,
Springs,
God.
and Disney Springs, it's like the area where you check in. They have made it very nice, but it's still pretty miserable to
Yes.
wait in that line.
And they're not very
sometimes-
organized. Remember one time when we got stuck and we kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and all these
Yeah.
people were going before us. And when we finally went up there, they were like, "Oh, you're next." No, we should have been next like an hour before. So yes,
But that's the
it's
thing,
not
though. It's
very
like sometimes
organized.
you get to Disney Springs and you get up like immediately, and suddenly you're the first one in line, and then there's no one waiting. And then other times you get there and you're waiting, and it's like you put your name in, they're going to text you. You
Yes,
have 10
they're going
minutes
to
to
text
come
you
back,
and you have to come back, and you don't know
it's
how many
like-
people are ahead of you.
Yeah, it's just so
Yeah, it
inconvenient.
is. It
It's
is
just
a
that's
pain
the
in the
thing.
butt.
Inconvenient is the thing. It's what I just
Yes.
don't like about it. But all right, now I feel really bad. This is such a negative podcast.
I know, but there are
was
things
the-
that, especially when you're dealing
that
with
was
this
the point
many
of this
crowds,
podcast, yeah.
when you're dealing with a company and you're dealing with this many crowds and you're dealing with this many things, there is going to be a few things. Like I said, it took me a while to even think of them.
All these came to me so
Oh
fast.
no,
unfortunately.
mine was a little bit like, okay, well, I'm thinking about it. What do I usually complain about?
What is your number one?
And I'm a complainer. Okay, my number one
is
is a
your number
more,
one?
it encompasses a lot of what you even talked about. Okay, my number one complaint is because I do all the pre-planning. Amanda is stuck doing all the stuff in the park. I'm stuck doing all the stuff before the park. I am a pre-planner. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah,
it is
just
ridiculous.
Just how much you have to plan.
Yes,
yeah.
it is ridiculous. I miss the days of getting on the plane and going home. Like if they say come home, you get on that plane and you go, I'm going to Disney and I know exactly where I'm going and how much fun it's going to be and whatever's going to happen. Now it's 60 days before. It's a year before with the annual passes, making sure we're going to go at the certain times. Then it's 60 days before, making sure we have our reservations for the park. Because I have annual passes, I still have to get reservations for the park. That's ridiculous. Okay? Years ago, if the park got filled up and they had too many people with tickets or too many people going in, they would block the gates and say you can't come in anymore. And that's it. The park's closed for the day. You didn't get here early enough. The park's closed for the day. Well, now I have to plan everything before time. So now you have to make reservations in the parks. You have to figure out what park you're going to on what day. You have to have your reservations for your dinners on those days. Then you have to get now that you can do the fast pass, the lightning lanes
Yeah,
before time,
the
we're going to have to get
multi-pass.
those before time. I'm like, okay, now this vacation becomes a pain.
You're really micromanaging your vacation.
Yes.
You know.
And if I wake up on Monday and say, I don't feel like going to Animal Kingdom today. The weather's not really cooperating and I don't want to do this. I'd rather go to Epcot. I may not be able to do that because now I got to change my dinner reservations. I got to change my park reservations. I got to change my Lightning Lane reservations. Let me tell you, and that's at 7:00 in the morning. So where is the vacation?
Yeah.
Now we kind of work around that.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like there's so many pros and cons to having a very planned vacation.
Yes.
Sometimes it is nice that all right, we got everything. We're going to
Yes.
do everything we want to do. But like you said, other times if you want to change things last minute, if you weren't able to get a reservation somewhere, it's like, that's all this work before you even get on the vacation. It's just very inconvenient and very sad, especially for those who are planning. Because then, of course, you have all the husbands who just roll up and just
Right, they just roll up. And then
everything.
also we have friends who meet us. So the problem
True,
is
yeah,
that now we have a lot of friends who say,
coordinating
I'm going to be in Disney or I live near Disney and we're going to meet with them. Well, once you make reservations with them, now you've got reservations for like 5 and 6 people. Well, those aren't very easy to change, period.
Yeah.
So now at the last minute, if you decide, well, we don't feel like staying in the
coordinating
park.
like the multi-pass lanes too is like impossible.
Yes,
it's just not gonna happen.
it makes it the plan. Disney is no longer let's just go and enjoy ourselves. It is you have to plan, and if you don't plan, you are not going to be happy. Okay, and I'm not saying you have to plan every single minute. There are times when you can just say, you know what, I'll just eat. We've said, you know what, if we don't get something, we'll just eat fast food. It's not the big deal. But you don't want to do that every day because especially if you're not going on a regular basis, you want to see as much as you can see and enjoy as much as you can
for
enjoy.
sure.
But without planning, guess what? Not going to happen.
Yeah, I know. Definitely have to be a planner, especially if you aren't good at planning, because not everyone's very good at planning.
No.
I would definitely suggest at that point to go book through some kind of like travel agent.
Right,
or
that's
something
what
like
these
that to
Disney
help you
travel
plan.
agents now are coming into they're
Yeah,
coming
so
into their own.
if you don't feel like you're a good planner, you will need a travel
I
agent
would
to
go
help
through
you.
them.
But otherwise, though, if you do want to try to plan yourself, it is a lot of work. And
It
like
is.
if you have a job, if you have a kid, if it's like life is busy. It's like you're trying to squeeze in planning your vacation
Yes.
while also living life.
And
It's a lot
especially
of work.
60 days out because of the crowds
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying,
because
it's a
of
lot of work.
everybody planning. You go on 60 days out and say, okay, I want to plan for this. And it says, nope. Can't do it. There's lots of places restaurants we don't go to because I can't get a reservation. As much as I would like to go there, we can't get a reservation. So you always have your backups. And like I said, because we go on a regular basis, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But the fact that you have to plan every single minute of this vacation makes it tiring.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, in my number one, I actually thought about activating the annual passes first. That was the first thing that came to my mind. But this one actually was one of the last ones I thought of. But I was like, no, this is something that I think is just ridiculous because in present day, Disney's building again. So they're building the new Villains Land, for instance. They're building the new Cars Land. They're building the Monsters Inc. Land. And one of the things is that I would hope that when they create the new line queues for these lines, they create a line queue that is actually okay to wait in. So for instance, when I say that, some of the new line queues are really great. For instance, I think Rise of the Resistance is a great example. It's almost fully indoors. There are little benches along the way. You go through a lot of tight rooms. So if you're claustrophobic, you definitely will not like this line queue because you're fully enclosed. There's no windows or anything. But you are indoors, at least you're out of the sun. And the queue itself is very long. So you're not really snaking around too much. You kind of have something always forward to look forward to in like the next room to see what the next room is going to look like. And I think that's really great. But then some of the newer line queues are just not good. So for instance, Tron's line queue is awful.
Yeah, I've not
And
been
this
on
is
that
one of the newest rides in all of Disney World. I think it is the newest ride. Oh, I guess Tiana's Bayou Adventure just reopened. But again, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, then Tron, or the rides that just opened, and Tron's line queue is not good. Like I would have expected them to create a better queue for a ride that people are going to be waiting on. Like Tron is such a major roller coaster in Magic Kingdom. Everyone's going to want to go on Tron.
right.
And it is a newer ride that people will wait on for. So for instance, I do forgive some of the older rides that like Space Mountain, for instance, that opened so long ago. Okay, they didn't think about it yet.
Yeah.
Some of these line queues, they didn't think about what the line queue
Right.
experience was going to be like, so that's okay. Those are forgiven. But some of the new ones like Tron and Slinky Dog Dash, at this point, that line queues make a difference to your overall experience and that the line queue should be crafted so that it's not extremely miserable to wait in. Because Tron, I waited, I think, a little over an hour and 15 minutes by myself without my phone.
Right.
In the line queue. I was out my phone because I didn't know what the ride was going to be. So I didn't know if I could take my phone on the ride or not. You can take your phone on the ride. It would have been completely fine, but I didn't know that at the time, my first time going on it. So I waited by myself in this line queue that you snake in and out of lines, long lines, multiple times, and you can see where you're going, so eventually when it gets to the end. But it was a terrible experience. And it's like you get inside, you do more snaking inside, which is ridiculous, and then you get to the locker room area, and the locker room area is always interesting whenever rides do this. This is the first time Disney has done a locker area. Universal is more well known for this than Disney is, but you basically get out of your line queue, and this is where you mix with the Lightning Lane. So you get to the locker area, you go in, you put your items in the locker, like your backpack, for instance, things that you like, basically anything that can't go in a
go on
pocket
the ride.
or in like a little something smaller than a laptop, because there is a little case like on the ride itself that you can put your wallet or your phone, for instance. But anything that's larger than that has to go in these lockers. When you get to that point, if you have no items with you, you can just skip ahead of the locker room. So in that sense, you can kind of skip ahead in the line a little bit where everyone else has to maybe put stuff in the lockers. You don't have to do that. You can just go ahead. But even then, though, it's just like the overall experience, it's just not good. It's just not a good line. A terrible
See, and I was
line.
happy with just a little extra shade.
Yeah, terrible line. One of the worst lines, honestly, especially considering it's such a new ride that I would have expected to be a little bit better. Now I get you need certain real estate to have lines, you know, to be a little bit longer to squeeze everyone in. So it's like, I get that. But I do think even if you have a line that's going to snake back and forth, you can still make it more pleasant for people to be there.
To be on it.
You could have screens around playing like maybe little videos or something like that, something interactive.
Right.
It's like there's something
So it
that
takes
you
their
could-
attention as opposed to just standing there.
Yeah, even maybe like on the walls, you could have a panel with, you know, even like moving. So for instance, I know when they redid Peter Pan's flight line queue, they added like the shadow on the wall, so you can interact with like Peter Pan's shadow on the wall. So it's like something that's like a little bit more interesting for you to do in the line queue. Again, I mean, like Slinky Dog's Dash line queue is so bad that they literally have a cast member selling water bottles in the line because the line is not fully covered
And it
it's
has no
outdoor.
shade.
That's no shade.
Right.
I think it's ridiculous, and especially for these newer lines or these newer rides, I think the line queue should be involved in the
Involved
planning
with the
experience for the overall ride, because you are going to be spending a lot of time on that
Spend more
line.
time in line than you do on the ride.
You do. That's what I'm saying. And that line, especially for Disney, you really are queuing up for this experience. Now, some of the other ones that I feel like mixed about, for instance, Expedition Everest, I love because it has so many of the artifacts that they brought back from
Right,
Asia
so you have something
to be
to
in
look
that
at,
line
something
queue.
to,
It is a very outdoor line. You do have a lot of shade. A lot of it's in the sun. So again, there's always pros and cons to every line, if I'm being honest. But again, some of these newer ones like Tron and Slinky Dog Dash, like it's like you couldn't tell me you could have done anything better than what you currently have.
I know.
It's just like ridiculous. And then again, other ones you know they can do it because Rise of the Resistance is pretty good. Smuggler's Run, pretty
Right,
good.
they have, they can do it.
Even Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, not bad. Not my favorite, honestly, but a not bad one. Sorry if you can hear my cat. She's causing noise down there. So she's right below me, so I know the microphone's going to have to pick it up. But yeah, that was my number one thing when I was thinking of like what I don't like about Disney. I don't like waiting in line, but I especially don't like waiting in a line queue that's a terrible line queue for a newer ride where it should have been thought about, you know? Again, older rides, you forgive, you forget. That's okay. We didn't know about it back then. Newer rides, it's not forgivable in my opinion.
No,
So-
like I said, I was even just happy with some shade.
yeah, I know, right? All right, I guess that was our five things. What item did you think of first?
The planning.
The planning.
The planning was the one that came up first because that's, if anybody who knows me, that's what I complain about all the time.
Yeah, funny the
Once
annual.
we get towards that date that I say, oh, it's 60 days out, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got like we're planning to go down for a quick couple of days soon because we had to cut our vacation short and they kind of gave me some of my points back. So I'm already knowing that I have to go there and I'm like, okay, I got to get on Open Table because if you go on Open Table, I can make the reservations before the 60 days out. And now I'm already starting to think, okay, we're only going 60, within 3 months, and I was like, okay, now I have to start thinking about where we want to eat, what we want to do, where my reservations are, and I don't want to do that. I just want to go. I want to get on the plane. I want to sit down and go, oh, where do you want to eat tonight? Oh, let's go have this. So let's go have that. Can't do that.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's
for
really
sure.
my memories, and that's what caused my number one. When I said, number one, that's my number one.
Yeah, honestly, my memory of waiting online at Tron was why that one was
see?
number one. But
Okay.
activating the annual passes came to my mind first, and then the one that came last. The second one was the popcorn buckets. Funny enough, that I was just like, oh, those popcorn buckets.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, activating the passes and buying the tickets and all that kind of stuff is in my planning.
Yeah, but then also again, just the no walk-in table service. I just think is so inconvenient.
Yeah, that is
so-
true. Because and that also stems from my planning because I know that we can't just walk up and say, we feel like eating here tonight. Can I get a table? The answer is going to be, we're not taking walk-ins.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to end up eating
And we've
somewhere
tried,
with
like,
your
we've-
hand in your
we've
food.
asked places
your food in your
before.
hand.
Yeah, like we've gone to restaurants saying, like, are you accepting walk-ins? And they
No.
say, no, you have to have a reservation.
No.
It's like, okay. Well,
So we know that, and that goes into my planning. See, it goes into the idea that I know that and as we've said in some of my other podcasts, if we are going to the park all day, I want to sit down. I want somebody to serve me some nice food. I want to take a break. I want to sit down and enjoy myself. And then we can get up and go out and have dessert out at another place or walk around or stay for the fireworks. But I need to have that one time when I sit down and have a nice meal.
yeah, for sure. No, definitely agree. So, all right. So let us know, what are some things that you don't like about Disney World? Let us know on our Instagram, Almost Amanda X. It will be linked in the description below as well. I would love to know, what other things that are you thinking? Do you agree with us on our top fives for each
Right.
of us? Or is there something that you're like, how could they not mention this? This is the worst thing about Disney World
Right,
ever.
because everybody, it's
So-
all specific, like your popcorn thing and my
Yeah.
shade thing and, different things.
Yeah, so we'd love to know what it
Mm-hmm.
is. But for now, we'll transition into just a little bit of Disney news. This is a slightly pre-recorded episode. So first up is that Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and the Oogie Boogie Bash are both in full swing right now. Oogie Boogie Bash sold out very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
However, as of recording, there are still tickets for Mickey's Not So Scary. So I would definitely check the website for the day that you would want to go on to see if there are tickets available. The closer you get to Halloween, the more expensive the ticket is going to be. So just keep that in mind. But Oogie Boogie Bash, I think, sold out in like 2 weeks, honestly. Sold out
Wow,
very
I thought it
quickly.
sold out even faster than that.
Yeah, Oogie Boogie Bash always sells out faster than Mickey's Not So Scary, although Mickey's Not So Scary has more dates as well.
I was going to say, Nikki's Got So
So-
Scary spans a bigger
But
time
both are in
frame.
full swing. Both look great. I've seen lots of videos of people going to both of the Halloween parties. A lot of the same things as years prior, but of course, all the new Halloween merch. So much merchandise. I absolutely love the plushies of the characters dressed up in little Halloween
Oh, yeah,
costumes.
and the
I think it's so
costumes.
cute. I think that's really fun. There's a couple new cute crew necks as well, like lots of new like tumbler water bottles and lounge flies and all these things for Halloween. And so yeah, lots of fun stuff for Halloween. I do think Halloween merchandise and like the treats are my favorites, even over the Christmas ones.
I kind of
just
like
think it's
being
so
there
fun.
right before Halloween when we went last time. We
Yeah.
hadn't, we don't do that very often, but I did like it.
I know. I really wish I could get that little ghosty Rice Krispie treat. It looks so cute. I think that one actually is only in Disneyland, unfortunately, but it looks so cute. Though, would love to get that. Maybe I'll have to make that myself this year or something. So
make
we'll
your
see.
own.
All right, Peter Pan's Flight has just reopened the other day with a new tribe scene. So they refurbished one of the
Oh, wow.
tribe scenes.
Okay, I didn't even know it was closed.
Yeah, so when you go through the ride now, there are two characters that are spinning in a circle as if they're dancing, basically. So they updated the tribe scene. I think before they were all just sitting,
Sitting.
just like, I guess, playing music.
a little
But yeah, but
movement
now
now.
two of them are moving around as if they're dancing, so it looks super cute. There's a new annual pass holder magnet in Animal Kingdom for the 30th anniversary of The Lion King. It features Timon and Pumbaa. So it is available now in Animal Kingdom, so make sure if you're an annual pass holder, go get your new magnet. One of the things that no one has really been talking about that much is that, again, lots of updates came out of D23. One of the things in Animal Kingdom that people aren't talking about is one of the new rides that's coming to Animal Kingdom. They are going to be replacing Triceratops Spin with a new carousel ride instead.
Oh,
So for
I
instance,
didn't hear
they're
anything
doing
about that.
Yeah, so they're doing the new Encanto area with the Encanto house. The Indiana Jones ride is
they're
going to
doing
replace
another
a
carousel,
dinosaur.
okay.
So they're doing another carousel. So the carousel says it's going to be featuring wooden animals, and it's going to be featuring a lot of characters, I think, from movies as well, from Disney, and I would assume other like maybe African and Asian
Cool.
animals too.
Okay.
So I think that's a great idea, especially to have a carousel in Animal Kingdom.
Carousel's
I
a
think it's
big
really
draw.
fun.
Yeah.
Especially too since it's based on animals and you're in Animal Kingdom. So I think that would be really fun.
Right.
So yeah, so Triceratops Spin, goodbye.
didn't even hear anything about
I was
that.
wondering what was going to happen to Triceratops Spin if they're just going to retheme it to something else and like
Yeah.
just keep the ride the same or something. But yeah, no, whole ride's being replaced. so that'll be exciting when the carousel is coming. And again, not many people are talking about it. I guess it's just being overshadowed by everything
By
else.
all the big stuff,
So
yeah.
I did think that was kind of exciting. And lastly, the menus for the Epcot's Food and Wine Festival have been announced and are online. So if you're going to the Food and Wine
saw
Festival
some of the
this year,
pictures.
yep, make sure you
look
check
good.
out those menus. So yeah, lots of menus, lots of new booths going on, lots of new food and for drinks and for food. So super exciting. We will not be going during the Food and Wine. Oh, actually, I guess
We will be there those
no,
few days.
because we are going before. Yeah, so we will be. We'll be at the very end, or Food and Wine may have
I
already
think
been
we will
over.
be.
When is
Yes,
that?
because the American Pavilion is still having entertainment. They're still having the festival entertainment. The day we're going to be in Epcot, there's nobody I really want to see. I forget who's playing.
Yeah, it's going from August 29th to November 23rd. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, by the time this podcast episode comes out, it's like starting like the next day, basically. So yeah, so
We'll
Food
be
and
there
Wine
at
is
the
starting.
end, the tail end.
Yeah, I was gonna say because Festival of the Holidays starts right after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, overnight they'll change basically
Right.
from Food and Wine into Festival of the Holidays. So that is exciting. So we will be there. So that's exciting. But I will need to go check out those menus. I haven't even looked actually.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as of recording, this should be coming out. This podcast episode comes out on August 26th. So August 29th is when Food and Wine starts. How exciting is that? All right, and let's go into some Disney birthdays. We have 2 Disney birthdays. First up is Dolores Madrigal on August 31st. So happy birthday to Dolores Madrigal. And the other one is on August 29th is when Disney Alani opened. This is the resort in
okay.
Hawaii. Disney Alani opened in 2011. It's not a park or anything like that. It's just a
I
resort.
didn't realize it opened
but
in December.
well, this is August, so
Oh, August.
really it's been a long day. It's only 11:12 in the morning, everyone. As of recording this.
I have to tell you that over the past few days, I've actually lost my mind a couple of times. So I'm sorry. It's obviously very busy for me these days.
Yeah, so yeah, Disney Alani, August 29th. They opened in 2011. So happy birthday also to Disney Alani as well. I would love to go to Disney Alani. I really want to get that Mickey snow cone. And they sell a little plushie of the Disney the Mickey snow cone too. I would also buy that as well. Although I will be honest, I don't know if I like snow cones, so I guess I will buy it and just see if I
snow
like
cones
it.
are snow cones. We had them when we had the Hawaiian ice when we went to Lahaina, which is not there anymore, unfortunately. The village that was just destroyed.
Well, even like where we live in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, we usually call it either water ice or Italian ice. And I have had that before, of course, like Rita's. You know, everyone's had Rita's. Maybe Rita's would sponsor us if they would like to sponsor this podcast. Reach out. I'm a big fan of Rita's. I love to get that gelati. So yes, I do like some of them, but sometimes I don't. Like it depends how flavored they are.
Gotta be in the mood.
So yeah, but they are good overall. But yeah, we'd love to get that. And happy birthday to Disney Alani. And that leaves us with our final segment of the podcast, our Disney memory. Do you have a memory for
I think some of my stuff that I've just talked about is lots of memories. So I think it's my memory of not finding a seat in the shade, my memory of all my plants. Those are my memories.
That is true. Yeah, we did talk about a lot of
it's that kind of podcast today.
all the suffering in the sun.
Obviously, it has not deterred us. We still constantly go back and talk about it. So.
Yeah, wait, what was your number 5 again?
My number 5 was the discounts. The fact that everything's not uniform for me, so that I have to constantly ask and constantly figure it out, know which thing I'm showing them and what's going on, which is not easy for me, especially with the Apple Pay. I mean, that's even a memory for me where Amanda trying to teach me how to use Apple Pay to the thing.
Yeah, she always slams her phone into it. Like, you don't need to touch it. They don't need to touch it.
I know.
Just hover.
Just like trying to set it on the thing. I'm still trying to get Apple Pay down.
I use Apple Pay for everything these days.
Well, you know what it is? I have to use Apple Pay when we're staying at the Swan, because we're staying like at the Swan or whatever. My band doesn't work. The best thing is when we go in our bands, we're staying on Disney property, because I just take my band and put it on, and then I don't worry about it. But yes, my Apple Pay memories are very vivid.
That's so funny. I actually started using Apple Pay when I was in Disneyland Paris. It was one of the first times I used Apple Pay. But I use Apple Pay for everything. I even take my credit card with me sometimes. If they don't take Apple Pay, I'm just not paying for it.
Yeah, no. I've used Apple Pay outside Disney just once or twice.
Most places do, because so many people have the credit cards where you tap to pay. So if you can tap to pay, you can Apple Pay as well usually. So it's very rare that they don't have it. But some places
I have to get
don't.
more use. I'm like I said, technology and me just don't get along.
One of the movie theaters we live by, they don't take Apple Pay or any tap to pays. You always have to either insert the card or slide the card.
Because they have older machines.
Yeah, so it is a little older. But I didn't know that, because then they actually have a little sign on their things that says no tap to pay or no Apple
tap to pay. Yes, because people are trying to tap their cards.
Because they're so used to it.
I'm usually trying to tap it in the wrong place. Does it tap here? Does it? Because each machine is different. So
yeah, no, for sure. But I feel like the same thing with me too. Again, just getting the popcorn buckets. I remember that being a thing. The reason why I don't even know if I still have it when I was a kid, that we bought the big souvenir popcorn bucket because I wanted a large popcorn. And it's just like, well,
oh, which one was it? Do you remember which one it was?
I think we eventually got rid of it when we moved from Hillsborough.
Oh.
So it's like I don't think we even have it anymore. I do still have my Moonlight Magic popcorn buckets that we got, but I mean, like, I don't really use them if I'm being honest.
No, she didn't want to take those home either, and I'm like, just shove your clothes in them and put them in the suitcase.
Yeah, I took them, but if I'm being honest, part of me is like, should I just get rid of these? Because it's like I don't really use popcorn buckets. I'm not a popcorn bucket person. I just
and we didn't even get as many as they would have given us, because we didn't even use up all our popcorn coupons that day.
And same thing with the Lotus Cafe, and it's something my mom gets to hear every single time we go to Epcot. But all right, thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. Make sure you give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. And make sure you're following us on social media, Almost Amanda X. It will be linked in the description. And let us know, what are the top things that you also don't like about Disney?
Right.
Are things that we mentioned, or are there other things that we didn't talk about? Again, we don't have little kids right now in our family.
No.
So anything with little kids, maybe we wouldn't even be
different.
About. Yeah. So definitely let us know. Or like big families, usually we just go, we're a pretty small family overall. So things with big families, we'll love to hear it. Things that maybe Disney should listen and change about, that would be great. So adding a few more trees would be lovely. Changing the line cues would be a little nicer, would be lovely. Adding those
obviously everybody has
boxes.
their own complaints, and Disney can only do so much.
For sure. Again, also, of course, beside the big ones like the crowds, the price, and the weather.
Yeah, that's just something that's just going to happen. It's just nothing.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll love to hear the things that you don't like about Disney. So definitely